There's so much confusion and a constant seeking for feeling pleasurable and avoiding pain. And so in this world of seeking pleasure and trying to avoid pain, there's a lot of different ways that we try to deal with it. Mostly, we look at people tend to look at their mental health or their physical health as a way to solve the problems of their lives. And you can look at someone, right? And so they look very physically unhealthy, you say that's a big problem. Or you look at yourself and say, oh my gosh, I've been anxious, I've been depressed, I've been confused. So my mental health is a mess. And uh, it tends to support this kind of spiraling into more pleasure seeking, more pain avoidance, more complicated thinking, frustration, depression, and a constant desire for more. So today what we're going to be looking at in this live stream is the teachings on not looking for more, and the teachings on finding the peaceful freedom or the salvation of what already is, the way that things already are. It's really important that we have or I find it very important to have a relationship with these kinds of teachings, because I can see that my body goes through sickness and suffering and pain, and my mind is often like that as well, suffering, spiraling, going into all different ideas and thoughts that don't really lead anywhere, don't give me the freedom that I'm looking for. And as long as this, as long as this body and mind is alive, I'm kind of stuck in this idea of trying to get success, right? The success of a body and mind, being a businessman or being a king or being wealthy or, whatever it is that I'm looking for. So this is a time to stop looking and start listening to the Dhamma. And the Dhamma is the teachings that lead us to or point out the real nature of our mind, or the real state of reality, the true reality. We might not know or understand, or even kind of hearing about like the word true reality, it might take us into this psychedelic mind state, or we say, oh, that's spiritual BS. But I invite you to find a place to sit and find a place to be, and let all of your thoughts about yourself and the world drop away for a period of time as we explore these teachings from Bodhidharma together. And Bodhidharma is kind of like the OG of Zen Buddhism, or the OG of sudden enlightenment, instant enlightenment. So we can listen to these teachings, explore them together, and along the way, if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask. For those who don't know, I was a Buddhist monk for 7 years, so I have some experience with the spiritual path and teachings and great gurus and meditation masters. And I hope that I'll be able to share and convey some of that experience to give you some relief and give you some freedom from constantly trying to figure out who you are, constantly trying to figure out what to do and where to go, and just take the cat out of the bag, so to speak. And to really perceive something, open. And then you'll get your answers straight from the source. And I'll offer a chanting as we begin this reading to pay homage to the Buddha or pay homage to the freedom mind, the true mind. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. May we all become quickly and totally free from our problems and sufferings. And so to listen to these teachings and really receive them and digest them, there's a certain quality of our mind that's very important, and that's a non-discrimination. That means that we don't base our listening or we don't base our direct experiencing on our personal thoughts. When we listen to nothing, if we're bound up by things in our mind, we won't really be able to receive nothing. Like if we drink soda, thinking about our lives and our problems and our goals, we won't really be able to enjoy that soda. We won't be able to have a subtle and direct experience of that soda, the nature of the soda. So this is the soda of enlightenment. And you may need to take a moment to scrape your tongue, which means to scrape or to unaffiliate yourself with all of these ways of thinking and thoughts and stories that you've been bound up with or involved in up until now, up until this moment. And it definitely helps if you can sit in an upright posture or sit like aware, sit in an aware way, and really to notice how you're breathing, notice how your body is, and to give a little bit of attention to being still and aware. So this is the teaching of Bodhidharma. Whoever knows that the mind is a fiction and devoid of anything real knows that their own mind neither exists nor doesn't exist. So do you, for example, know that? Do you know that the mind is a fiction? Do you know that the story of your life and the story of your past and the story of your future and the story of your plans, the story of your idea about yourself, doing something, being someone, going somewhere, is a fiction? In the same way that a movie is a fiction. In the same way that a TV series is a fiction. And a lot of people try to get around this reality with not taking life very sincerely, not being very open to new experiences, kind of getting locked into a particular TV series of their own ideas, and then anything that is outside of those ideas being aggressive to that, or being discriminatory towards that. And the invitation here is to stop discriminatory thinking, meaning to stop thinking based on separation between things. Now, knowing that the mind neither exists nor doesn't exist is kind of like the dream that you had 5 years ago. So where can you find the dream that you had 5 years ago? And so we can't say that the dream that you had 5 years ago exists. You can't find it. But you also can't say that the dream you had 5 years ago doesn't exist. And this is also true with the mind. So whoever knows that the mind is a fiction and devoid of anything real knows that their own mind neither exists nor doesn't exist. You don't exist, nor don't you exist. That is, that it's not this or that. This is not this or that. This is a fiction. This is unreal. Whatever this is unreal. Most relevantly, so yourself, your personal identity. The narrative of a separate character in the story of the world, that is ultimately empty. Now, I don't recommend that you try to build a new ego with that thought or with that perspective, because it's better to not think about that and build an ego on being a good person, on doing good deeds, on being generous. But rather, this is a direct teaching on the releasing and relaxing, the refreshing and restarting of suffering. So this is the teaching to abandon the notion of self, the self that is suffering, the self that is depressed, the self that is trying to figure out their life, the self that is trying to deal with their trauma, etc., and to hit the refresh, restart, hit the everything button, hit the widen out button, hit the free out button, hit the ending of suffering button. Now we may say at that time, when we're encouraged to hit that button from this point of view, from the wisdom point of view or the insight point of view, we may say, wait a minute, I've got a job, I've got a house, I've got a relationship, I've got all these things that are important to me. But if you take out the I from that, you're looking at more of a direct experience. And in this direct experience, there are no story-based elements. In seeing, there's just seeing. In hearing, there's just hearing. In breathing, there's just breathing. In physical sensations, there's just physical sensations. And we may say, well, okay, but I do have a life, but I do have a story, but I do have these things. And so the Buddha teaches us that all of these things are impermanent, that your life is born to die, that your pleasure is leading to suffering, that your pain is just suffering, unsatisfactory, unworthy of your involvement, unworthy of your attachment. That the body and the mind and the phenomena that take place in the midst of the body, in the midst of the mind, are not worthwhile to attach to hold on to identify with. So whatever you've built up is going to fall, and its nature is to fall. So this is the step back, woo! This is the widening out, this is the brightening out of not being attached to that which is unreliable. And so our possessions, our money, our wealth, all the things that we identify with that keeps the self afloat, unreliable, not satisfactory, and they don't actually exist separate from one another. And you have to listen to that very closely, because this is an insight teaching or a direct pointer. Nothing exists separate from anything else. So while the movie, while the TV show appears to be real, appears to have a narrative, appears to have a flow in time and space, it's actually empty. Because that flow, that narrative is based in the notion of separation. But there's actually no such thing as separation. Separation is just a thought, and it is empty of being permanent, and it's empty of being separate from everything else. In the same way that water cannot be separate from the ocean, or that matter cannot be separate from space, or if you're really getting rough and tough, that a tree cannot be separate from the ground, cannot be separate from the soil, cannot be separate from the sunlight. So it is impossible for things to exist separately. And so also it is impossible for stories about ourselves and stories about our lives to be real. It doesn't mean that it doesn't seem real. It doesn't mean that we should be nihilistic or beat ourselves up or not try to help others or bury our head in a hole in the ground. It doesn't mean that. But it does mean that our usual way of looking at things is maybe not as authoritative, not as reliable, not as realistic, not as trustworthy as we thought that it was. And so as we reorient away from this self-based view of what's happening to be concerned with reality as it is, we have a lot more power to navigate the world, to help others, and also to get what we would like to have in our own lives. And I usually say we because I is just ridiculous. And we, at least, is more inclusive of a communal experience, which is what this is. So the impossibility of separation, and that is also the impossibility of things existing or not existing, because things don't exist. They're just appearances. Trees don't exist. Trees are just another word for an appearance. And an appearance based on separation is an appearance that's quite easy to see through. When we look at or look from the perspective of the whole, or look from the perspective of everything. So whoever knows that the mind is a fiction, reading from Dharma here, whoever knows that the mind is a fiction and devoid of anything real, knows that their own mind neither exists nor doesn't exist. Neither nor. Mortals, or ordinary people, the people you see most of the time on TikTok and on YouTube and all of the entertainers that you come across, all of the music artists that you come across. Okay, mortals keep creating the mind, claiming that it exists. So we're creating narratives, we're creating stories, we're creating an idea and saying that that idea exists or that that idea is real. And arahats, or conditionally liberated people, keep negating the mind, claiming it doesn't exist. Okay, so people who take this position of being personally enlightened for themselves, they keep negating the mind. That doesn't exist, that doesn't exist, that doesn't exist. But bodhisattvas and Buddhas neither create nor negate the mind. So, just as it is. A Buddha is just as it is, awareness itself. And then a bodhisattva is someone who takes on the responsibility or the position of helping others. Right? They say, I won't be a Buddha, I won't be complete awareness until I help others. Or I will make my way to Buddhahood through the process of helping others rather than just personal enlightenment for oneself. And it's a very realistic and practical way to go on the spiritual path as well, because when we're helping others, it's more easy to stay motivated and inspired, right? And helping others, we also inspire others to help others, and that includes ourselves. So this is what's meant by the mind that neither exists nor doesn't exist. The mind that neither exists nor doesn't exist is called the middle way. And so this is a mind to be experienced. This isn't a philosophical idea, right? This is to have a direct experience of, instead of creating the mind, claiming that you're going through these things, claiming these things are happening to you, claiming that you're trying to deal with this problem, and negating things. No, I'm not going through this. No, I'm not having this problem. No, this isn't my suffering. So the middle way, okay, is neither creating nor negating the mind. The mind of suchness, or the mind of direct experience as it is, the mind that doesn't create thoughts or negate thoughts. You could also say going with the flow without creation or negation. Math without the possibility of adding or subtracting, because there's nothing to add or subtract in that mind, and even that is just nothing in particular. But it's not the nothing of nothing. It's kind of like everything. So the mind that neither exists nor doesn't exist is called the middle way, and that's the teaching of the Buddha. So we'll continue here. If you use your mind to study reality, you won't understand either your mind or reality. So this is a really interesting and important principle here. Don't use your mind to study reality. Don't use your conceptual, cognitive thinking mind to study or understand reality. This is the realm of true meditation, or real meditation, or Buddha-based meditation. So if you use your mind, if you use your conceptual framework of thinking to study reality, you won't understand either your mind or reality. But if you study reality without using your mind, you will understand both. So this is to study reality without self. This is to study without studying. This is to experience without experiencing. This is to breathe without breathing. This is to see without seeing. This is to hear without hearing. And we have, as modern peoples, we have an addiction to stimulation. We have an addiction to doing something. We have an addiction to being someone. And we think we want to do something good. We think we want to be someone good. And good here means beneficial, powerful, profit instead of loss. But actually, this constant seeking for stimulation is, we're not in control of it. So we're pushing ourselves towards involvement with suffering rather than with profit or loss. Because this body, this mind, doesn't matter how wealthy you are, doesn't matter how powerful you are, doesn't matter how much technology you have, all of that self identifies with the material form and the mental form. And that material and mental form, that body and that mind are impermanent. They will die. They will pass away. And when does death happen? The same time that the bird sings. And when do you think the bird sings? It doesn't matter what you think, basically. So if you use your mind to study reality, you won't understand either your mind or reality. If you study reality without using your mind, you will understand both. And you'll have to take this with a grain of Buddha salt or enlightenment salt, because this isn't Jordan Peterson's university on making money or becoming a powerful white man or whatever. This is not that. So this is about uncoupling the relationship with intellectual thinking. This is about, awakening. This is about the teaching of Bodhidharma. This is about the teaching of Buddha. So this may be different from what you're looking for. Actually, if you're here looking for anything, you won't find it. And you'll be taking a wrong approach. Kind of as Bodhidharma says here, if you use your mind to study reality, you won't understand either your mind or reality. And that, we could say also, that means you won't understand the internal or the external in this realm, in this sphere of the Buddha Dharma. If you study reality without using your mind, you'll understand both. And that understanding both means you are together with everything. You are going accords with the nature of things as they are, rather than as they appear to be. And the mind can only grasp or understand or intellectualize the way that things appear to be. The mind cannot understand or see the way that things actually are. Because the way that things actually are isn't in the realm of understanding or not understanding. Reality is not in the realm of what you think about it. That's how we get humble. That's how we reduce pride on the path of awakening. We realize that directly. So if you study reality without using your mind, you will understand everything. Those who don't understand understanding. And those who understand not understanding. So understanding is a direct experience. Understanding is the way that things already are. So if you don't understand, you don't understand understanding. If you don't see clearly, you don't see clearly the Buddha mind that is underneath the seeing. or that is already there, that is luminously brilliant everywhere, in everything, all the time. Okay? So those who don't understand understanding. So it's like those who don't see seeing. How can you not see seeing? Well, you do. Your real nature does. So those who don't see seeing. And those who see not seeing. No self, no identity, no narrative, no conceptual framework for reality. People capable of true vision know that the mind is empty. Okay? And this true vision is to break through delusion, to break through ignorance, to break through all of the bullshit, to break through all of the nonsense that holds together, that facilitates, that maintains your suffering and your selfishness. And suffering and selfishness tend to go together like Lego blocks. Real emptiness is not emptiness. The true self is not a self. So people capable of true vision know that the mind is empty. They transcend both understanding and not understanding. The absence of both understanding and not understanding is true understanding. The absence of both understanding and not understanding is true understanding. Walk on your own 2 feet. Breathe your own air. See your own seeing. Of nothing, together with everything. As it is. No should, no would, no could. Just as it is. So seen with true vision, form isn't simply form, because form depends on mind. And mind isn't simply mind, because mind depends on form. Mind and form create and negate each other. That which exists in relation to that which doesn't exist. And that which doesn't exist in relation to that which exists. This is true vision. So, there is no such thing as good without bad. There is no such thing as daytime without nighttime. That what exists only exists in relationship to what doesn't exist. That what doesn't exist only exists in relationship to what exists. So this is pointing to a false paradigm of the mind based on things actually existing and things not actually existing. But actually existence and non-existence are interdependent. That as much as one understands, there is not understanding. As much as there is not understanding, there is understanding. As much as there is a self, there is no self. As much as there is a thing separate from other things, there is no separation with everything. The notion of separation depends on no separation. The very existence of a tree depends on the existence of there being no such thing as a separate self-entity called a tree. Getting to very, very subtle dharmas in the mind. Ways of understanding the true mind that's not based on a self, or that already has no self. But if we believe in a self, or we believe that there's this personal ego entity underneath the skin and the bones in the brain somewhere, we're kind of looking at the framework of the mind from a wrong view. And this is to develop and to cultivate and to realize the true vision, or to realize that there are already two eyes and two nostrils and one mouth with two ears, without having to do anything about it and without there needing to be a personal ego involved. So we can give no time to be. To experience directly the absence of both understanding and not understanding. To step into the absence of both doing something and not doing something. That is true doing. That this life is like a reflection on a mirror of space. Whether we like it or not. What is born will die. What we experience will pass away. What we hold dear will be lost. That this is the way of things, and it doesn't matter what we have to say about it. This is the abiding in acceptance of freedom from liking and disliking, or abiding in the acceptance of freedom from picking and choosing. This is the real meditation practice. Now, in this way, loss is a profound gift. Loss can be very, very helpful. Loss can be very, very insightful. Because when we gain things, there's not much choice. We celebrate, we try to continue gaining. It fulfills, it perpetuates our greed. The more we get, the more we want, the more confident we are about our capacity to get. Right? Like with pleasure, the more pleasure you experience, the more you want pleasure, and the more confident you are about your own capacity to get more pleasure indefinitely. But loss gives us an insight into the impermanence of everything we hold dear. So instead of taking loss, which can be negative or difficult experiences, a loss of status, a loss of wealth, a loss of pleasant experiences, we have an inroad here to detachment, or to stop seeking, or to understand that whatever is gained will be lost. So instead of filling up the gasoline machine of our perpetual seeking and wanting for more, that is the freedom point, the release point, the actualization point of no suffering, or no craving, or seeing through the infallibility of craving. That craving and getting more and getting what we want is fallible, or is fall apartable. And so we let it fall apart. We let our lives fall apart. We let the body fall apart. We let our mind fall apart. Because all of that fear, all of that worry, all of that stress about what we've lost is based in what we could get. That this loss is going to affect my capacity to get more of what I want. But what if you experience loss and realize that everything that the I of you depends on is loss-based? That everything you get is dissolving. That everything that your identity is based on is dependent on dissolution. And that this is the way that things are. This is the way that life is. This is the way that reality is. So now, who are you? If there's nothing for you to get, and if it's okay to lose everything, then who are you? So in this way, we see no thoughts in thoughts. We hear no sounds in sounds. We experience no we in we. So seen with true vision, form isn't simply form, because form depends on mind. So we could say like this, these shorts here. These shorts aren't simply shorts, because the form that they have depends on the mind or depends on the awareness, right? So without, let's say, this kind of awareness or this kind of mind, this form wouldn't be the way that it is. So seen with true vision, form isn't simply form, because form depends on the mind. And the mind isn't simply mind, because mind depends on the form, right? So the mind that is not perceiving these shorts, or the mind that is not in relationship with these shorts now, doesn't exist. So the mind and the shorts, or the experience of reality and the awareness of reality, are interdependent with each other. They depend on each other. So mind and form create and negate each other. So they both depend on each other. The awareness and the form, okay? Not just create each other, but they also negate each other. Because the creation is in the interdependent experience, and the negation is in the dissolution that's brought about, the dissolution of mind and form that is brought about by the interdependence of that experience. That which exists exists in relation to that which doesn't exist, and that which doesn't exist exists in relation to that which exists. This is true vision. By means of such vision, nothing is seen and nothing is not seen. Such vision reaches throughout the 10 directions without seeing, because nothing is seen, because not seeing is seen, because seeing isn't seeing. What mortals or normal people see are delusions. True vision is detached from seeing. The mind and the world are opposites, and vision arises where they meet. When your mind doesn't stir inside, the world doesn't arise outside. When the world and the mind are both transparent, this is true vision. So let's take some time to be nothing together and enjoy the sweet sounds of the lawnmower, gasoline engine. Okay, friends, so any questions or sharing before we end the live stream today are welcome. I'm in Thailand right now, and I'll be headed to Taiwan in about a week or less. Someone who knows me from my online teachings and work has invited me to stay in Taiwan. with their family. So I'm going to go over there and visit. It is beautiful, but it always depends on the mind. So if you are in hell and your mind is peaceful, then that's the way that it is. If you're in heaven and your mind is peaceful, then that's the way that it is. And so it's not so much about the outside forms, it's just that we idealize that. We idealize a particular environment, we idealize a particular person, we idealize a particular situation, and basically we think that we'll get pleasure from that. And there's definitely worldly pleasure and the pleasure of the path. So there's like the pleasure of eating food, and then there's the pleasure of being blissful, or being peaceful, or being kind, or being patient. And in the world of duality, one is definitely better than the other, but it always depends on the mind. And the importance of the environment is more the spiritual environment. So it's like the kind of people that you're some guidance. May you be well, happy, and peaceful on the path, and may we all be free from suffering where we already are. Namo Guan Shu Yin Wu San. Namo Guan Shu Yin Wu San. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.